Welcome to the FNO InsureTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, everybody out in podcast world, we're back for episode number I don't know what on this FNO InsureTech. That's right. Your two co-hosts,
Your two hosts.
or as our labels now say, host and the other guy.
That's right. We'll let the audience decide.
We'll let the audience decide. You decide. I have an idea. Vote and email us.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Overflow our email.
That's right. Light us up.
An avalanche of emails.
Please. And yeah.
We're here. We're here for another episode, man. How exciting. You know what's funny?
Tell me.
I still get a little nervous whenever we have a guest, when we have an episode. Like we're 260 in. We've been doing this for six and a half years. And I still get a little nervous. Do
you?
Mm-hmm.
Certain guests make me nervous. Today's guest makes me a little nervous.
I get a little nervous that, hey, I'm not, the guest is going to be so smart that I have absolutely no idea what they're saying, or I get nervous, I'm going to run out of questions 2 minutes in, which sometimes happens. But you know what? After every single podcast we ever do, I sure am thrilled we did it. I sure am happy we did it.
There's been times. So let's take a little peek behind the FNO InsureTech curtain here. Okay. There's been times
pull that sucker back.
where even 10 minutes in,
Yeah.
I'll get a text message from Lee Boyd that says, I'm out of questions.
I'm done. I'm done. I mean, that's
I'm
better
done.
than the one.
That's
That's
it
better.
for me.
That's better than the one that's 25 minutes in, and I'm like, I still don't know what they do. That one happens sometimes, but
And I have to say, when we're 10 minutes in to a half hour to 45-minute podcast, and you tell me you got nothing,
yeah.
That's when I get nervous.
Well, it happens. It happens. There are some times that your mind is just racing, right? Because we got other things going on, and you just can't come up with questions. Maybe I didn't read the notes good enough, or I didn't put enough thought into it. But it hasn't happened as much. I think we went through a little bit of a trough where I did that a lot, but I think we're better now. I think we're in a better place.
Well, let me ask you this, or let me tell you this.
Please.
I've been thinking about what's the most important thing about being a podcast host, right?
Okay.
And I would say one thing, it's good to have a lot of knowledge, right, about whatever it is you're talking about. But but there's so many great interviewers in the world who interview people from all different walks of life.
Yeah.
And we can think about, who some of those people are and whatnot. But I lost my point.
Well, I think our job is to have our guests tell their story and to pull that story, or to allow them a platform to tell the story.
So
that's our job, right?
So what's the most important thing that we do as hosts is listen.
Yeah.
Listen, because inside of what they're saying is the keys to a successful podcast.
You going to write a book on podcasts?
Yeah. I think you wanted to write a book on podcasting, didn't you?
I wanted to write a book on our podcast.
You have
not
to know
on how to do a podcast.
You have to know what it's like being around Lee Boyd. So it's not uncommon I get a phone call that says, I've been thinking. And anytime that happens, I have no idea where we're going. Okay.
That's true.
I've been thinking.
True.
Okay, Lee, what have you been thinking about? I've been thinking about we should write a book.
Yeah. I've still been thinking about that. I've started it a few times.
I don't think if you're going to write a book, listening is what is important. I think if you're going to write a book, it's knowledge or an idea, or that you have something to talk about or say, or a story, right?
Right.
Lee wanted to write a book about our podcast.
I wanted to write a book about the stories that we've learned from our podcast, or the lessons, not how we listen. I didn't want to write it on how to do a podcast.
Well, okay. Then here's your platform. My number one lesson that I've learned is you have to listen. You have to listen well. What's yours?
I think you have to ask the questions that are interesting to you, because they're probably interesting to the audience. That not just fluff questions. Sometimes you really got to stop and say, what is an interesting question that we need to ask? And those typically wind up being the best. So yes, you have to listen, but you also have to guide and to give direction. So yes, listening and direction.
Are you
You can't let it
suggesting
just run
are
off.
you suggesting that I ask fluff questions?
Not always. We've
That
given
was that
we've
was
given some
that was a
softballs in our
that
day.
was a $10 answer. That was awesome. That was a great answer.
We've given some softballs in our day where, but we've also given some pretty hard hitting questions where people are like, I can't answer that. Stop it.
Okay, well, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Can we talk about our guest today?
I wish you
Is that
would.
a
As
little
we're
too
like 6 minutes
softball
into
of an
this
answer?
thing,
Huh?
I wish you'd introduce them.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. You can't just listen. You got to actually do something on the podcast.
We have a 3-timer here today.
Yay.
He's 3/5 of the way to his FNO InsureTech smoking jacket
Yeah. It's a big deal.
on back order. And that is Marc Fredman, our friend, and somebody who we have tremendous regard and respect for, Marc Fredman, Chief Strategy Officer at, I'll say, one of the top 5 most important InsureTechs there is, CCC.
Yeah. Mark comes on and we really get to dive into AI and what they're doing and how they're using it. And it is a beyond interesting conversation, because it's not just about building a product or making a product better. It's about the entire thing, the entire ecosystem on helping people out. So it's a great conversation. Mark is so good at explaining what he's doing and what his team's doing, and I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to listen.
Well, I've determined that listening is important.
That's brand new information.
Well, there you have it.
Thank you for that.
Tune in next week. There will be more.
Words of wisdom from Rob.
We love Mark, and you will too. If you've heard his first 2 episodes, you already know why. If you haven't, please listen to this. All kinds of great information about AI, what's happening, where it's going, and most importantly, how it's getting used in an effective, business-oriented manner, that I think many of you out there will be intrigued by. So without further ado, here is our 3rd episode with Marc Fredman, Chief Strategy Officer at CCC. Hey, everybody. We are here with a very special guest, a guest who's on his way to getting his FNO InsureTech smoking jacket.
That's right.
Our merit
Still on
badge,
back order.
something, yeah.
Still on back order. Sorry.
It's still, yeah. But boy, once they get in, they're really nice.
Oh,
Really nice. We have Marc Fredman with us today, Chief Strategy Officer at CCC. Welcome back again.
Thank you for having me.
we're excited to visit with you.
You don't make it to 3 times unless one of 2 things. You are one of our favorites, or we really need you. One of the 2. And in your case, it's both. So
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the T-shirt or the green jacket or whatever I get
Yeah.
for being a three-time guest.
Yeah.
yeah,
It'll be there.
unfortunately, the 3-time guest gift is also on back order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supply
about
chain. We don't need to tell you about supply chain.
Supply
It's something
chain.
we all know
It's-
about. Yes.
Yeah. It's
That's
a rough
right.
time right now.
We're suffering with supply chain. But let's move on to the point at hand, which is to talk about what's new, exciting, and different at your company, which is CCC. And in case we have listeners who have been in a cave or are still in a cave and don't fully know, give us just a second on what the heck is CCC anyways.
Yeah, so CCC, we are the software platform for what we refer to as the P&C insurance economy. And that includes not just insurance companies, but collision repair body shops, auto manufacturers, parts suppliers, salvage companies, essentially everyone that has to do something to resolve a P&C claim. A large case of those is auto claims. And so what we do through our platform is we connect all those different companies, more than 35,000 of them, so they
Oh,
can
go.
do their job in the life of a claim better, and then connect to all those different companies. And every year we process well over $100 billion of commerce between those companies through workflows, AI, lots of stuff I'm sure we'll be talking about.
And tell us what your job is there.
Yeah, so my job, my title formally is Chief Strategy Officer, but I always tell people that my job is the future, right? My job is to think about the future and make sure that our customers are the winners of tomorrow, and that they are well positioned to navigate all this crazy complexity that everyone is dealing with, seemingly more every day, so that
Yeah.
they can do their best in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in their businesses.
Do you feel like that charge, right, to think about, to deal with the future is bigger and more daunting today than it was, in the past with everything that's going on?
I think
What
it's
what do you
it's
think
probably
about
more
that?
exciting. I think there are every year there's more things available for us to think about in terms of the future. Um, but I think a lot of what we look at in terms of technology, the role of technology, those things in some ways haven't really changed. Technology still has to be able to provide a real bottom line benefit for the people that use it. And what we're seeing over time is more and more capabilities in terms of solving problems, but also dealing with the complexity that surrounds us. And that's a big part of AI that we think about a lot. There's a lot of individual use cases, but the sophistication of what it can manage with a complexity, I think just makes it more exciting to think about what's possible. Stuff I might have thought about or dreamed about 10 years ago, we can actually do it now.
So, and we're going to dig into some of that, but I have to ask you, because particularly in the world, the products that you guys offer, it seems to me that AI is both um, i- incredibly exciting and presents amazing opportunities, but also it must also kind of keep you up at night a little bit with everything that it's capable of. How, I'm going to ask you a big question, I guess. How do you harness that? How do you contain it? How do you deal with such a explosive um, technology?
I think one of the things that helps us is that we aren't newcomers to AI. We've been doing this for a really long time at some pretty big
Yeah.
scale. Our first machine learning algorithm we put into production over a decade ago. We were actually buying our own NVIDIA GPUs when it wasn't cool to buy
Really,
NVIDIA
really.
GPUs. Yeah, oh, yeah. We were buying these. We had them in our own data center. We had data scientists trying to figure out how to program in CUDA and do different things for computer vision. So we've seen all the progressions when you think about convolutional neural networks, GANs, transformers, RAGs, all the different things that have happened. We've been not just participating in that, we've been a leader in that for a lot of different use cases or a lot of different years. And that's also forced us to figure out what I'll call the boring but important stuff of AI, right? So how do you actually cleanse and sanitize data? How do you monitor
Mm.
drift? How do you think about the deployment of it in a real workflow? So we definitely are always thinking about some of the challenges and complexities of doing more and more. But I think we've built a real experience curve, having done at this point more than 20 million unique claims using a CCC AI solution.
Wow.
That's what I was talking to Rob earlier. right before the podcast, and I said, CCC's been using AI for years, right? You've been using photo imagery, you've been using machine learning, you've been doing it for years. And I was thinking what's changed is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there for a while, as you start building it, you're doing one service, right? We're going to do an estimate. Let's do an estimate using AI. And today you've moved to where we're going to run the entire organization and all different aspects of what we do with this AI to deliver an overall better product, customized product. Am I right with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think to your point, so we've always been focused on make sure you deliver a real tangible use case with an ROI. So I think I may have
Yeah.
mentioned on a previous pod, our first AI solution was actually to figure out if a vehicle was likely to be a total or a repair. And that's,
Okay.
as you guys know, very important, but seemingly basic prediction that you have to make. But it actually has a lot of consequence in terms of what ends up happening to that claim, over time. So, Lee, to your point, what we've done is we've added lots and lots of other AI solutions, whether it's around estimating total loss, casualty, but we've also tried to think about how do you actually unlock the power of AI more beyond those individual use cases. So I'll give you a couple examples. So one of the things that we have done, to your point, for many, many years is a lot of stuff around computer vision AI. So
Mhm.
20-30% of all auto claims now are settled through a mobile channel. And the vast majority of those have AI powering the estimate creation. But what happens is there's photos that are being collected throughout the life of that claim outside of just the estimate. You get it from the consumer has it on their camera roll, maybe the tow provider has it, salvage, body shop has photos. So how do we take that and move it all the way to up to FNOL? So that was a solution that we introduced recently called First Look, where you can take
Okay.
photos from anywhere. It doesn't have to just be for estimating. You can run it, you can take it from any of those sources, and we can run a bunch of AI models at FNOL. We can do total loss versus repair prediction. We can do an estimate. We can even predict potential injuries to the occupants of a car by looking at the actual vehicle itself. We can do subrogation
Wow.
predictions. And then we also have something I'm sure we'll talk about, this architecture that we created around the IX cloud that allows you to figure out how do you want to orchestrate what happens downstream from that AI model. So I think we've gone way past, like, we've got some AI models that we're helping people run. We're trying to really, to your point, embed it in the way that you manage claims end to end.
That's
Yeah,
remarkable.
yeah,
And
that's amazing.
tell us, because we're going to be talking about parts and pieces of it. Talk to us for a minute about intelligent experience and that concept, which I just find to be so forward thinking, honestly.
Yeah, so there's a few different pieces to it. So I'll talk about the concept in general, and I'll talk about some of the things that we're doing to help people take advantage of it. So
Thank you.
the core idea is that we're at a stage now where customer experience it's no longer enough. And the reason for that is that we've gotten a lot of people in insurance companies everywhere that's thinking about, hey, I got to make sure I've got a great customer experience. But you also have other departments that are focused on employee experience. You have other departments that are focused on the other metrics that you care about for your business: quality, profitability, compliance, all those types of things. And so if you look at the progression of how people have used technology, it's always been a continuously expanding view. So we started by looking at the user interface, right? So just very narrowly, how am I interacting with this technology directly? Then we started talking about the user experience. So the fonts, the manuals, all those things. Now we've got customer experience, all the ways that we interact with a business. But the intelligent experience is, how do you fuse the customer experience, the employee experience, and all the things that matter to your business to get to an optimal outcome? And we think this is the next kind of leap in terms of how people think about technology. And our industry is the best place to employ it. First of all, we've been trying to do that without calling it intelligent experience for a long time. But this is an industry where, counterintuitively for a lot of other industries, pretty much the entire result, the whole supply chain, actually happens outside of your four walls, right? So if you think about an auto claim, it is dependent on the body shops, the tow providers, the medical providers, the fleets, the parts suppliers, all those people working in concert to deliver that optimal outcome. And so if you're only focused on what you're doing in your four walls, then you're really missing something fundamental. And we've also seen in insurance, there's always been this seeming trade-off of customer experience, accuracy, LAE. And we think with intelligent experience and the stuff that's now possible with AI, you don't have to choose among those things. You can really optimize it across everything. So part of what we've been trying to share with people is this idea, and we published a white paper on this to talk about kind of the historical underpinnings of this and the progression to IX. But we've also want people to be thinking about what is going to be your intelligent experience platform, right? I think we've had a lot of people think about what's my estimating platform, what's my core system, my platform for this, for that. But if you really want to be a winner in the future, you got to think about what's your intelligent experience platform. And so we've done some pretty cool things with introducing what we call the CCC IX Cloud, which is taking that cloud platform that we've had in place for many years, and we've added a really cool event-based architecture to help people construct these intelligent experiences and deliver them at scale.
Help me understand what that means. Does that mean bringing in other softwares into this ecosystem that can be used within the CCC cloud?
Yeah, so it's software providers. It's also service providers. So I'll give you a good tangible example. So think about supplements. So supplements happen very frequently in auto claims. I think we're up to 50-60% of the time. But that is one event, one micro event out of dozens that happen in a claim. But when a supplement gets created, 15 other things have to happen. So the insurance company has to review and approve it. They have to pay it. Maybe the agent has to be notified. The rental has to be extended. Parts have to be ordered. Repair procedures have to be consulted. There's all these downstream effects that happen. And most of those things today happen manually. So a human being does it, or it kicks off a point-to-point integration to some system. What you'd really like is that when that supplement gets created, everybody gets notified, right? Every system, every service provider, every software provider, and maybe the endpoint in some of those cases is AI. And so that's what we talk about an event-driven architecture. That's what we mean is basically where applications, endpoints in the platform can publish events and subscribe to events. So we could publish that supplement event to our systems, but also to third parties. They can listen to those events and then they can take action. And if you don't have something like that, that's the only way we're going to solve the real complexity problem in this industry. I've shared with you guys before the staggering amount of cycle time that happens in auto claims. We're now up to more than 2 billion days that elapse between auto claims being opened and auto claims being closed every year. And that some of that is some of what I'm talking about. It's people waiting to get the supplement fixed, figured out, and the parts ordered and those types of things. So that's just one example, but you could play that out across F&OL, liability, subrogation, all those different areas.
Yeah. I just had I was in a little accident. I was hit from behind, and I took my car in, and it was almost 2 months. They had it almost 2 months. And for like you're saying, a whole cascading,
right, a hidden web of complexity that most people don't think about. A hidden
web of complexity that, and I, of course, was only communicating with the shop,
right,
a little bit with the adjuster, but mostly with the shop. And of course, they were saying what you would expect, which is, it's coming and it's really their fault, not ours. And so we're waiting on them, and we're waiting on them. But so you're attacking that.
Yeah, we want to do it in two ways. Yes, first is fix the orchestration coordination problem so that we can really take a step change in terms of the connectivity across the ecosystem, but then add to that a completely different level of intelligence so that you can have AI helping each of those steps happen as optimally as possible. Another good example is subrogation. So a couple of years ago, we probably talked about, we had acquired a business that did AI-enabled subrogation detection. So they would use natural language processing, look through claim notes, and help insurers figure out what are claims that you can recover through subrogation, help you improve those recoveries. So we recently introduced a solution for inbound subrogation where we can take in the demand packages that are being sent, and instead of these are like 100 pages of paper that are being faxed and emailed and snail mailed across different insurance companies. That traditionally takes, hours, days, weeks to resolve. AI now in 30 seconds can read that entire 100-page document, apply your specific rules for how you adjudicate and resolve those demand packages, so you can get on with that quickly and accurately, and then also have that embedded into the rest of the workflows. So part of the reason that we've been talking about IX and trying to get people thinking differently is that I think we are at diminishing marginal returns in terms of the old ways of thinking for technology, right? So there's still a lot of value to be had around, individual optimizations. But if you want to make a step change around how you can actually bend the curve, we have to approach it in a fundamentally different way. And we think that is best expressed through intelligent experience.
I mean, are there teams of people who are just sitting around thinking about this at CCC, or are there whole teams thinking, how do we use AI to deliver a better customer experience or
Yeah,
intelligent experience?
I'm thinking about the same thing. Where do you even start with something?
Where do you even start? I
Yeah.
understand you're like, this is a great idea, but I'm thinking, that is hard. That is hard. You've got to have teams in place or something.
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate to have, just the best engineering product development talent anywhere, not just in our industry, but you look across the globe, and we get called out for that. Like NVIDIA has actually referenced us on their earnings calls and things like
Ooh,
that. A lot
cool.
of it starts with architecture. So you have to be thinking about this stuff, planning for the future. And we're very fortunate to have had some really very exceptional architects that have thought about where we need to go from an AI and all these other things. But, we talked about, we've been multi-tenant SaaS. We've been on the cloud since 2003.
Oh,
We've
wow.
been way ahead of every technology innovation because our customers expect us to do that, right? They expect us to be there ready when the time comes. When COVID hit, we had all the tools that you needed to do mobile claims, through photos. And we had a lot of carriers who had not actually adopted that technology yet. We knew eventually they would need. We didn't know the global pandemic was going to hit, but
Right.
Mhm.
but when it did, we had a lot of customers who said we literally could not have settled claims if not for the tools that you guys put in place before we needed it. So we have a great architecture that's set up, and we're always thinking, to your point about what's the next level. That's why we introduced this Kafka-based event-driven architecture over on top of our cloud assets. And then what we do is we have 1,000 plus people in engineering. They're always thinking about, how do I take advantage of those technologies? So what we're in the process of doing is working with customers to figure out what is an intelligent experience for them. And that's part of the thing to just highlight is, it's not really just about us sitting in a room and thinking about
Right.
what's an intelligent experience, because
Yeah.
every customer is different. Every customer is going to run their business differently. But we want to be able to figure out what are those unique things that they can put in place, and have our teams on the back end build those capabilities such that they can stitch those together in a way that lets them take a step change in what they're trying to achieve.
Because on that value chain, that from FNOL to done, right, are so many different points and providers, some of whom never cross paths, right?
Yes, that's
I
right.
mean, so what is pertinent to provider 4 in the chain might not mean anything to provider 12. In fact, provider 12 might not even need to know that it exists while it's in process. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling for a couple of yo-yos.
Well, but
who-
you think about that complexity for an insurance company, having to manage. You might have 10,000 people in your claims organization. You might have dozens of different technology providers, tens of thousands of companies you interact with. And so we talk about a lot about the cost of complexity, the challenge of complexity. Complexity is nonlinear. So as you want to add more things to a network, it is a geometric problem, not an arithmetic problem. And so we have to, that's a lot of why we talk about 35,000 companies. I meet with customers all the time, and they're saying, hey, I've got this problem or that problem. We say, well, we've already got some things that are hooked up over here for
Mm-hmm.
you to use. Let's actually go into our design lab and let's mock something up and figure it out. Or maybe they've built an AI model that they want to figure out how they get into production. That's something that we hear people get challenged with a lot is I've got data that could be really useful. I know more than anybody about my policyholder, my customer. I know what the
Yeah.
best customer experience for them is. I want to provide that differentiated experience as they go through the claims process. And so we need to be able to enable that so that innovation goes from, a little team is trying something on the side to how do you actually deploy it at scale?
I've had the the privilege of being at your guys' conference one year, and uh, and and honestly, I've said this to many people. It was one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and I don't know that it was particularly a great conference for you guys. It was just every year, it's an incredibly useful, dynamic conference filled with really important information, right? And I'm sitting here thinking about how do you deal with these customers who need to use this, right? How do you keep them informed? You have this vast architecture of solutions, vast, bigger than probably any single one of your customers knows that's there. I mean, it's problems in the organization beyond just the development side that probably you're more on, but getting it downstream to the actual people who can put it into use. I mean, it's kind of like me and Excel. I know that Excel does 1,000 more things, probably 20,000 more, maybe 100,000 more things than I know.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you deal with that? You
I,
talk
I
about
think
your
it's
customers.
yeah. I think it's a great point. I think we are fortunately at a stage where so much is possible with technology. It really is. I mean, we are doing. I mean, the fact that, like, as just an example, you can take 100 pages of documents and in 30 seconds summarize it. It looks like magic when you see it.
Right.
I think to your point, the challenge and part of the reason that we've been very vocal about this idea of intelligent experience, and we're talking with customers at very senior levels about how to embrace this kind of new mindset, is exactly what you described. It's hard for customers. Think about an insurance company. They're not different than any big company. They've got a lot of different departments, different divisions. The left hand doesn't always know what the right hand is doing as well as you might want. So part of what we're trying to do is challenge people to think differently about what is possible. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to think about just coming up with a great customer experience or just having accurate outcomes. You should be thinking about delivering intelligent experiences that provide a great outcome for your customer, for your employees, and your business. And we've built all the plumbing that you need to do that. Right. And to your point, that's why, I talk about an adventure of an architecture. It's not sexy, but it's because it's not itself a use case, but it is a backbone that lets you orchestrate end to end all the things that you need to do to actually improve claims performance.
And so you're allowing the customers to dream big. You're allowing them to dream what needs to be done on your platform. You're able to help those dreams come true. I think it's an interesting thing. We hear about AI a lot, but you're really focused on improving the experience, customer experience, user experience, overall experience. A lot of times we hear about AI, we can sort our data quicker, we can produce this document quicker, we can do this process quicker. I love the way that you're looking at it and you're saying, no, we've already done those things and we're doing those things better too. But now we're grabbing this whole ecosystem. Um,
You, you ha-
I think
yeah,
that's fantastic.
you have to do all of it because I think, to your point, one of the things that's gotten really lost when people talk about technology digitization, especially in insurance, it has historically been, I would say, focused more on the LAE side. So
Mhm.
a lot of, even just the language that people use, it conjures my employee used to do this task. Now I'm going to have a consumer go tap, tap on their phone to do that task. But that's only part of the question. You still need to get to an accurate outcome. You still need
Right.
to pay what you owe, and you still have all these other considerations. And so I think to your point, you want people to be thinking about, how do you balance all of that? It's not straightforward. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of engineering that's gone into that in terms of what we've tried to build. But if you want to make it easy for people to get on with that too. You don't want to make it so that you got to take 3 years to figure that stuff out. So to your
Yeah.
point, at least especially, that's why I have the funnest job there is. I basically ask people, why not?
Why not?
Why? And it's also, when you talk to people, I've been doing strategy for, a couple decades now. And I always tell people, the most important thing in strategy is the power of inevitability. Because if something is inevitable, you got to ride that. You got to go in that direction. You don't want to be
You got to
on the
get
wrong.
there. You got
You got to
right.
get there. But the thing
Because
is,
it's inevitable.
but it's usually pretty easy to see. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing, is when you talk to people, if I asked you, or any insurance executive, what's the world going to look like 5-10 years? They're all going to tell you, well, we're not going to have 2 billion days of cycle time. I mean, we're going to be doing AI. We're going to do all this other stuff. But then we have to be able to give them a roadmap to actually do that. And I think that's one of the things that I find people struggle with in innovation is, I know I want to go to the next thing, but I don't want to lose all the great stuff that I already built, right? I've spent 20, 30 years optimizing my team, my
Yeah.
procedures. I've built all these competitive advantages. I want to go forward, but I don't want to lose the stuff that I built. And what we want to tell you is, you don't have to choose. You can keep the great stuff you built and step forward into the future. And that's probably the biggest thing I think that's really different about us, is we're actually helping you run your operations every single day. There's like billions of transactions every day that go through CCC, but we can also give you a path to actually migrating to where the puck is going.
I'm sitting here this whole conversation. If you'd asked me a few years ago what CCC is, right or wrong, I would say it's a data company who has technology. Today, I'm thinking you're a technology company who has all this data. Would that be a fair assessment, or would
Yeah.
it be an unfair assessment?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we think of ourselves as a software company, as a SaaS company that does have a lot of data. We've got well over $1 trillion of historical data. It's one of the reasons, honestly, when we went public, we actually did change our formal name. We used to be CCC Information Services. We changed it to CCC Intelligent Solutions. I think that has been building up over decades. And I think with the Intelligent Experience Cloud, a lot of stuff that we're introducing, we're trying to take that to the next level. And again, it comes back to, how do you deliver real world results? I think that's one of the things that I think I've been really proud of seeing our company over the 10 years that I've been here. We've never wavered on our fundamental mission, which is deliver bottom line results for our customers. We have an 83 Net Promoter Score. We have great in-depth discussions with customers about super tactical things. How do you improve performance on bumpers and headlamps in
Yeah.
this zip code and this MSA, but also 3 to 5 year vision sessions about, well, where do you see the world going, and how can you maintain your competitive advantage? I think at very senior levels of insurance companies, they're looking at this complexity megatrend, but they're also looking at all kinds of other changes in terms of what consumers expect from what they interact with with their insurer. And there's some really profound questions that you have to wrestle with all those things. But at the end of the day, AI-enabled automation, improved intelligent experiences, that this is where you're going to end up, right? So the question is, what is the right intelligent experience for you? And what is the exact sequence of operations that you want to roll that out over the coming, days, months, years?
And this is, that part of it is growing, right? I mean, that's getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the intelligent experience of today is only going to be more robust in a year, right? Or in 2 years, because
Well,
now
this-
it's being, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, sorry to cut you off. I mean, this is actually in the white paper, we spend a fair bit of time talking about this, which is that there's sort of two parallel trends in technology that have gone on for honestly thousands of years, which is this idea that technology progression lets us do two things in a fundamental way. One is get closer to solving individual problems. And the second is that as you get close to that individual problem, optimizing all the complexity that surrounds it. And so if you look at any technology advance, what that really does is it reduces the barriers to individuation. You think about um, the internet, right? What the internet is able to do is it means that you can tee up the exact information you're looking for, right? You can get the long tail of books from Amazon because it's more cost effective to distribute that individual solution than having all these booksellers all over the place. So what we see is that that's sort of the nature of technology. It lets us get closer to individual problems and it lets us optimize that complexity. That's sort of, if you think about that and you think that's sort of the game, right? That's really what's possible. Then you start to imagine differently, where am I going to go in 5 to 10 years? What are the problems I want to get closer to? What are other things that I may have previously thought I could not manage because it was too complex, right? I didn't have, no human being can keep all the information in their head that they need to manage every permutation of claims. It's just too complicated. So what are the things that I can do to bring those things to bear? And that really is the heart of intelligent experience. And it also has some implications for how you think about what are the platforms you're going to use? How are you going to think about your own data? How are you going to think about deployment and workflows and all the different companies that you have to be connected to? So to your point, it is new, but it's also building on a really long-term history of technology and innovation.
Will the growth in technology allow us to do things that there at CCC that we originally didn't think were possible? I mean, will this technology trend as it's curved up? I mean, are there things that 5, 10 years ago you thought, well, wish we could do it? I mean, are we getting to the point where we can't?
No, absolutely. I mean, subrogation is actually a good example of that. I've been here 10 years. I've had customers for 10 years saying, can you guys help us on subrogation? It wasn't until we found SafeKeep and what they had built with AI where you really had a step change in terms of getting to a different outcome. Some of it is also not AI though. Some of it is just the fact that you've got a connected platform that has all these capabilities. I'll give you a good example. We have customers that are settling third-party casualty claims completely digitally through a mobile phone. You can upload the bill, you can get settlement, you can communicate, you do all that through your phone. I don't think 5, 10 years ago people would have ever comprehended settling a third-party injury claim, digitally in that kind of way. So I think there's definitely going to be more and more of those things. I don't think 5, 10 years from now you're going to see any aspect of the claims process that can't be managed in that way. I think the interesting thing also starts to become, and I think we're still probably at the early innings of this, is the next wave of AI is not going to be, how do I optimize individual claim outcomes? It's going to be, help me manage at the most senior levels of the company the complexity of my entire system, right? How do I think about my staff and improving their performance? How do I think about which service providers I should be using, SLAs, really thinking differently about managing the business. And I think people are starting to see, with all the things that you see now with Gen AI, that wow, like there's some really powerful insights that AI can tell me in a way that I can understand. But that's really probably where this goes next, is thinking about AI helping you drive intelligent experiences, not just individually, but across every claim that you manage.
Kind of like turning AI in on itself, right? If you will, and saying, okay, now you're doing all this stuff. How can you even do it better organizationally?
Yeah.
Um,
Use your own logic to make it better.
Yeah, a lot. I think a lot of AI, when people think of it, they think of these rote tasks, right? That are sort of, that you can mechanize and you can automate. But and I'll say this as a guy whose job is strategy. AI is going to be doing strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, that we're talking about AI helping you to think of your claim strategy and really changing the way you operate. That is not far off, right? And having something that's going to preemptively recommend to you, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Not just at an individual claim level, but across your entire business, because it can actually see, and this is where the data is so importantly, to be able to see all of the outcome that you want to know. I do want to know the net promoter score. I want to know, but I also want to know the indemnity performance. I want to know the cycle time. I want to know all that stuff. And I want to have AI help me figure out what is the best possible outcome across what could be thousands of different factors.
Right. You want AI to be able to work without the prompts, right? To be non-prompted useful. And that's what I think is going to happen. Right now, I use a lot of AI, like a Chat GPT or something. It's all prompt based. But the day it's built in and the day it's prompting itself to deliver the information, that's what I look for.
Right. I'm looking forward to when it says, "Hey, Rob, you need to think about this."
Hey,
Yeah.
Rob, based on all these things, you need to think about this, and this is what I suggest you do
Mhm.
to do X.
Well, you think about other professions, pairwise programming's been around for a really long time. There's value in having someone to bounce off of. You
Yeah.
got a sous chef if you're running a kitchen. So you want to have a knowledgeable guide, but this is also why verticalization is so powerful. You have to be able to have it be relevant to what I'm doing in my business, in my life. And I think that's one of the things that I think sometimes gets lost in some of the Gen AI discussions is it still has to be accurate, right?
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for
Right.
for
Be
a
right.
for a business to business application. It's
Right.
not like asking ChatGPT to write me a poem for
Right.
something I'm trying
My
to
mom's
do.
birthday.
Right.
Yeah,
And like,
right.
absolutely. I mean, like when you think about a medical application, if it's off by a degree or two, that's could be incredibly consequential,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's one thing that for it to say, or for us to say, "I have an opinion about this." It's another thing to say, "This is right."
Well, and
To think,
you see this also in the auto repair side. One of the things that we've talked about diagnostics and how that's transformed collision repair, that is because to your point, when you recalibrate that side mirror, it cannot be off by a single degree or it will not be effective. And so
uh-huh.
that's one of the things that I think all this industry thinks about a lot, but a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate outside the industry is the absolute vital importance of accuracy. It cannot just
Yeah.
be, it looks cool, people liked it. You have to get to the right accurate outcome because at the end of the day, insurance companies are indemnifying, they're standing behind that accurate identification of what that outcome should be.
So I want to ask you, speaking of, I just have a general question here on auto repair.
Personal general question.
Well, it's like all politics is local, all questions are
Okay.
personal.
Sure. Sure.
So, are we at the point where essentially I can take a couple of pictures, send it to you, and even not of just a little fender bender or a scratch, and send it to you, and you send me back an estimate like that?
Yes, we've been doing that for years and we're doing that millions of times a year.
Okay, and what is the percentage accuracy on that? What's the data on that?
Well,
The accuracy information.
yeah, so we look at it, I mean, it's as good or better than what a human is able to come up with in terms of identifying damage that's visible from the photo and being able to write what's available from that estimate. And there's a lot of rules that can be put in place in terms of making sure that it is doing that in a way that's consistent with how your human estimators would do it. What are your repair replace logic? What are your parts rules around OEM and things like that? So we try to make it so that it is really pre-populating information that a human can use to then ultimately make a final determination. So we have that already going. We've done that for millions of claims on the insurance side. We also have that we rolled out on the shop side. So we now have shops that we have tens of thousands of shops that use our mobile tool. When they check in that car, you take a picture, and instead of taking 30 minutes to write an estimate, 80% of that estimate can be created in 30 seconds. And, there's always going to be things that, you're not going to see under the car and some of that kind of stuff. If you're at the shop, you can look at those things. So that's why when you have an estimate that's created on CCC, to the extent that somebody wants to get that car fixed, it's seamless to be able to book a repair appointment, share that estimate with the shop. Shop can begin the repair process. To the extent that there is a supplement, as I mentioned, that supplement can be dealt with in a way that's, again, seamless, so that you're not taking, hopefully, unnecessary days to get that piece resolved.
Right. And the intelligent experience helps to facilitate the supplement. And right. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
a big
not
part of
the event that it used to be.
Yeah, we want to make that smarter. If, as an example, one of the biggest things that drives cycle time is actually waiting for the parts to arrive. It's basic, but it's the reality. So can we do some things to get part sourcing done faster and smarter? Can we go ahead and order those parts faster and smarter? Can we make sure that they are the right parts? So we introduced a solution recently using build sheets for body shops. So you try to write an estimate for a Ford F-150, you're going to get 80 different headlamps, right? Because you've got all kinds of different trims. And so with build sheets, we can actually say, no, this is the exact right part.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of, I'll call that boring but important, to get the right xenon headlamp, for the car. But if you get the wrong one, that is a very unintelligent experience, because now I may have to return that part. I got to extend the cycle time. So we're always trying to figure out at every stage, end to end, where is there opportunity? Sometimes the game is won by inches, right? So you got to do these, incrementally push it forward, while we're also looking to the horizon of what's the big idea, but make sure that customers are getting the day-to-day results so that they can fund the journey to these bigger, more transformational opportunities.
Right. Because if you're a customer, what you want to say to CCC is, you know what? I get the right part every time.
Exactly.
Thanks. Right. And what's behind that is
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
a ton of stuff.
Right.
But that's what matters to them. Not everything else we've talked about today.
Well, we talk a lot about this. An intelligent experience is one that just works. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the challenge that we try to give to all of our customers is, how should thing X, thing Y, thing Z that you want to do, how should that just work? How it should just work. You've got an idea for that. So let us help you think about how you can actually make that a reality.
Well, we are super excited always to have you on, because, it's funny. A lot of who we have on are newer, more startup phase companies, and they're still working things out. And you guys are a super mature, one of the really few super mature companies in our space, in our insurance claims space, who have it all together, right? And you're building on top of years of successful experience, right, instead of, we've been doing really good for the last 18 months. That's great and important, but you guys have been really good at it for a long time. And it shows in the quality of this conversation and the quality of what you do. And I want to add one more thing. When I was at the conference that I mentioned earlier, I think it was 23, I met your CEO, Gitesh, and I just have to say that you reflected as well. There is a excitement and openness and sincerity in your organization. I actually walked up to him to introduce myself. He was at the conference. He engaged me for 10 minutes, right? Here's a guy, he's the CEO company. He's at a conference with, I don't know what, 1,000 people, a lot of people there, right? Any of whom would love to have time with him. And he just generously gave it over. And we had a wonderful conversation. And the whole organization reflects it. You're a great spokesman for it. So we thank you once again. Of course, it doesn't mean that you'll be getting your gift for your third time on any sooner. So don't think that one has anything to do with the other, because it doesn't. That ain't happening. Nice try.
I appreciate it. And on behalf of all the couple thousand CCCers that hopefully embody what you just characterized every day, Rob, we appreciate the sentiment.
Sure. And thanks for coming back. And episode number 4, I'm sure is just around the corner.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mark, for being on.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Appreciate it.
At F&O InsureTech, we get C-level people,
We do.
right?
The C-level people today was a C-level person.
It's probably because of what we pay.
Yeah. The big
Don't you
bucks.
Big bucks.
Yeah.
Big
Big bucks. Big bucks. We pay with notoriety. We pay with
You mean
we
they
pay
become
with
notorious?
yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're no, it's fun. It's fun. People enjoy coming on and we enjoy having them on.
You know, we honestly, we kind of rave about a lot of people once we have them on and when we do our little outro here.
Yeah.
But I have to say, absolutely one of my favorite guests. I am an enormous Marc Fredman fan. And if that episode wasn't a great example of why, then I don't know what to say.
That was a episode full of wonderful tidbits of information and mind-boggling things that could come. And
Mhm.
I thought he was so good in explaining what he was thinking and their direction and how they're using all of this. It's what a cool job he has, and he did a great job of explaining what they do as a team over there. So I agree. I thought it was a fantastic episode.
Yeah, yeah. And so much thanks to him and to Michelle for all of her work on rounding Mark up for us, and to our team, the fabulous Aldrin Muya, the remarkable Alicia Moss, without whom Lee and I would just kind of be sitting here talking to each other.
Just be talking into a phone. No recording, no notes, no nothing.
No point. No
No
point to our
point. Just
conversation.
rambling on.
Uh,
It'd be like an intro.
Just two people using up some time talking about nothing.
Yep.
But instead, we do this podcast
We do.
for you, our audience. We love you. We need you. Come back again next week. And until then,
Goodbye, everybody.